It's been a week since 50 lives were snatched in an instant.
The gunman wanted to cause pain and hurt and division. But what he didn't realise was actually, from an Islamic perspective, it's a one-way ticket to heaven for them. You know, they've been martyred.
The Islamic faith is unfamiliar to many of us. But this week, we've seen nothing but love for the Muslim community.
The vigils, the flowers, the donations has been absolutely amazing, and I think it is absolutely what we need. But at the end of the day, we do need to reflect and analyse, how did we get here? What factors contributed to an environment that allowed the attack to take place?
Like many young Kiwis, Muqsit Bashir has built his life around Islam.
For me, it's about being a good, charitable, generous, loving person.
But since moving here from Brunei as a 5-year-old, he's felt judged, even hated for being Muslim.
I get those side eyes, you know, and I see the way people either look at us or avert their eyes actively. Growing up here, of course you experience racism and xenophobia and Islamophobia. It's really crazy that people didn't think that that was us. It was the normal for me. There's no other life that I know. And then 9/11 happens and it's like, oh, you're a terrorist.
Muqsit has been threatened on the street and watched his mum getting abused just for wearing a hijab.
In those moments, I'd be lying if I didn't say that I'm so angry. I've had to rise above it and be polite to these people and to not feed into their fire. But that takes a lot of self-control.
New Zealanders would like to think that our society is free from all of this hate and violence that's going on. The reality is that it's not.
Fatoumata Ba is a refugee and a Commonwealth young leader. Proud of who she is, but worried about her safety.
Islamophobia has increased in recent years, and I think you just have to look to Europe and the increase in hate crime to see that.
Anjum Rahman from the Islamic Women's Council says it was only a matter of time before New Zealand was affected.
You noticed the tide beginning to turn. What kicked that off?
There was definitely a distinct rise in negativity around the time of the rise of ISIS. People saw that and reacted to it.
More fuel on the fire when Donald Trump was elected. Remember, he tried to ban Muslims.
I think Islam hates us.
And don't forget about Syria, Brexit, and the rise of the alt-right.
You will not replace us!
We felt an increase in hostility, an increase in comments when you're going out in public, the way that people would look at you.
Do people say things to you in public?
Oh, the usual, go back to your own country, it's 5 miles to the nearest airport, it's, you know.
Just the usual?
The usual, yes. Yeah.
Have you noticed a change?
Yeah, it's 100% gotten worse.
Driving with my window open and someone in the opposite direction throwing water at your face.
You've had that happen?
Yeah.
When you let these things, these experiences that have been happening, and you let them fester away, they are going to result in tragedy, and it has happened.
Believe it or not, New Zealand has a long history of attacks on mosques. Fatoumata says the so-called free speech movement is partly to blame.
I think that the free speech movement have almost normalised hate speech.
I don't actually believe in the concept of hate speech.
Social media has actually created an environment where individuals can spread their hate without facing the repercussions of it.
But it's not just in the online world that overt racism has flourished.
These black people, who are they?
What do you mean
Why
these
are they?
black people? Which black people?
The really dark ones that aren't Maori.
Well, I'm dark and I'm not Māori.
As a Sri Lankan journalist, I've experienced plenty of racism over the years while doing my job.
Jahan from TV1's Close Up programme.
Speak English, not Indian, please.
Speak English, not Indian.
And I've even met activists who are fighting multiculturalism.
White Pride Worldwide. In Christchurch, we usually have our White Pride Worldwide march.
Openly touting their xenophobic views on the streets.
Diversity is an anti-white genocidal scam.
We were afraid that our community could be targeted.
For 5 years, Anjem lobbied politicians and top officials, warning them about the rise of Islamophobia.
We couldn't get across to them the urgency that we felt, even though we kept saying it, it was not registering. And I feel sure in my heart that we fought as hard and as long as we could have.
10 days ago, the Muslim community's worst fears became a reality.
I never contemplated that it would be 50 people. I never contemplated that somebody could so calculatedly, cold-heartedly walk in and just decimate and kill as many as they could.
It was shock, but it wasn't surprise. I got to say that as well.
Wasn't surprised?
No, I wasn't surprised.
As New Zealand grieves, we've often heard and seen these words.
To say this is not us is, I think, naive, and that naivety, the apathy, the complacency is kind of what's gotten us here.
To a certain extent, every individual who lives in New Zealand has actually contributed to the absolute horrendous violence that took place on Friday.
We're all responsible.
We are all responsible. It's taken the loss of 50 lives for us to have a conversation right now about racism, about white supremacy. The rose-coloured glasses have absolutely come off. And I just wonder where those free speech proponents are right now.
Haven't heard from them.
Haven't heard from them. Absolute silence, and a deafening one.
But Kiwi Muslims finally have a chance to have their voices heard.
The world has turned its attention to us, and now is the time to speak.
Islamophobia is real. The rise of white supremacy is a great global threat, and this must end now.
I don't know what this means for me as a Muslim man in New Zealand. Part of me is hopeful. The other part of me is maybe a little bit terrified for maybe what the future holds. I've never felt 100% safe, but I've never had to actively think about my safety until now.
Are you scared?
If they kill me, they kill me. I'm not afraid. I'm not going to hide. I'm not going to stop being who I am.
Anjem hopes that the support from Kiwis doesn't fade.
But I would say to all those people that will be watching to see where you are a month from now and a year from now, and we will be watching to see how you respond to hate within our community, and that means more than wearing a headscarf in solidarity. It means standing up and being counted and making the change that needs to happen.
The gunman wanted to divide us. Instead, he achieved the opposite.
He brought together a community that was fragmented. He brought non-Muslims and Muslims alike. You know, we call each other brothers and sisters in Islam. He has united brothers and sisters in Aotearoa, New Zealand.
That's what the gunman has done.
That's what he's done.